Right, I'm frequently asked the question, how the primitive reflexes still being there and the lack of the postural control reflexes affect behavior? And my answer is a pretty static one. Many years ago, when I was an academic, I read a wonderful book. It must have been wonderful because I forget the title. And it said that for children who have problems in the classroom, showing how bright, how intelligent they are in the classroom situation, they have 1 of 5, or even 2 of 5, methods of coping with their difficulties. The first one is to do as little work as possible, because then you can't make that many mistakes. 2, to be the nice little guy, the guy who helps the teacher to do everything, because if you're nice, the teacher's not going to tell you off too much. You know, it's the apple for the teacher syndrome. 3, to become the class clown, because it's far better to have people laughing with you rather than at you. 4, the class rebel. Everything's wrong with this school. The teacher is rubbish, the school's rubbish. No wonder I don't fit in here. Or 5, retreat into illness. Miss, I'm sick, I just can't do this. Mum, I'm really feeling ill today, I just can't go to school. So, behavior is quite often reflected by the primitive reflexes being there, stopping them, the boy or the girl, being able to show how bright they are in an acceptable academic way. One of the things which can happen, also affecting behavior, is frustration. If you were to imagine that as an intelligent person, you couldn't show exactly what you wanted to be able to show. You've got it all up here, but you just can't get it down on paper. Everyone else can. You can't. You very quickly become frustrated. And frustration can lead to misbehavior, can lead to anger. It can lead to tiredness. So frustration is present in many of our children with the continued presence of primitive reflexes and lack of the postural control reflexes. The vestibular system, in other words, the balance mechanism. Now, for me to talk to you, I'm moving my hands, I'm moving my head. That requires that I've got a good balance system, a good vestibular system in place, so that I will always get my balance back no matter what I do. I don't have to think about it. So the balance mechanism, vestibular system, in each of your ears, way down, next to that little shell, which we call the hearing apparatus, are 3 semicircular canals. And they, if they're working properly, allow us to have good control of turning of the head, lifting the head up and down without falling over. In other words, they're extremely useful. Now, the thing is, the semicircular canals send the messages back to 4 little vestibular nuclei, balance mechanism, like dots in the brain stem. And they're like a relay system. And they pass this information from the balance mechanism down to the body to help the body to adjust, proprioception. And also to send the messages back saying, I'm adjusting, it's all right, you can carry on doing what you're doing. And then another link from these 4 little dots, these vestibular nuclei, goes to the back of the head, to the master control unit, the little brain, the primitive brain, which is way back here. And that starts to give any correction. Back again, when this loop is confirmed, there's another system going up to the cortex of the brain. So the cortex knows what's going on. All of that is our vestibular system, and we need it. And to show how important it is, your balance mechanism, your vestibular system, is the only system in the baby which is fully present at birth. But it's like me giving you a grand piano. It looks great, and you can put photographs on it and flower vases. Marvelous. But you've got to learn to play it. And that takes time. And the vestibular system takes up to 3.5 years for the child to learn to control it and play the system properly. So that tells you how important it is to us all.
Are people perfect?
I remember a long, long time ago, I was leading a seminar in the south of Sweden at the University of Lund. And I think it was a 5-day seminar, and there's a group of doctors there. About 20-odd doctors. And early on in my seminar I said, now all of us have problems. And one doctor at that moment said, I have no problems. I have solved all my problems with self-hypnosis. As the days went on, we realized he may not have any problems, but he was the problem to everybody else. And all of us have some problems, and that's true for the reflexes. That many of us still have 1 or maybe 2 little primitive reflexes still present. And the answer is, so what? None of us are really perfect, thank goodness. The world would be a terribly dull place if we were all perfect, I can assure you. But if you've got a cluster of them, so this cluster, that's 3 or more of the primitive reflexes, and particularly the important ones, and the lack of the postural control reflexes that you should have, you can't be the person that you know that you should be. In other words, you're not functioning well completely. And there's a lovely story which I remember and repeated on many occasions, much to the bore of my wife being bored, I'm sure, is we were at a conference some years ago, and someone that we had trained came up to my wife during coffee pause and said, Sally, I still have got a Moro reflex, which is a primitive reflex. And Sally said, oh, are you enjoying life? Oh yes, fine, it's just I've got a Moro reflex. Oh, how's your marriage? Is it good, average or lousy? Oh good. Are you enjoying your work? Yes. Do you have any real problems other than the Moro? No. Then why worry about it? All that our children are is they can't live and be the person they'd like to be and live the life showing how intelligent they are in an acceptable academic way. When we're doing the testing, the first part of our test battery is to check balance and coordination. And we do a number of tests for what is called static balance, standing still. Can you stand still? Because that's good. And that's why we actually test this by one test, getting you to stand on one leg. Can you maintain your balance for the appropriate period length of time? Can you stand on the other leg for the appropriate period of time? And there are other tests for static balance. And then we test movement and balance. And this is, there are a number of tests. The generally accepted medical test is called the tandem walk. And this is where the child, or the adult, is asked to walk forwards slowly and smoothly, putting one foot in front of the other so the heel touches the toe. Now, some children can do this. Others who find it difficult, because they're not silly, stupid, do it quickly. Because if they can do it quickly, they might get it over more quickly and the faults won't show. But for others, they can't maintain their balance and they're virtually falling over all over the place. Then it's important to stop that test. We don't want the child to learn another failure system. We just say, that's difficult, isn't it? Please don't say, oh, that was good, wasn't it? Because the child knows you're lying. The child knows it was difficult. So we stop it and we acknowledge how difficult it is. We've got the information that we want. So we don't need to let them go on and fail even more. Many people, parents, who come to see us, don't really understand the term neurodevelopmental delay. It doesn't mean a lot to them. And that's why the current director of inpp, Sally Goddard-Blythe, said, ideally, we should use, and I've got the paper in front of me just to prove it, neuromotor immaturity. In other words, our children can be 11 on the outside, they can be grown up to 11, but on the inside, the reflexes are there and they're only 4. So we've got to bring up the reflexes to date so that they're 11 years of age on the outside, but also on the inside, so that they can work, perform, show how intelligent they are as an 11-year-old boy or girl.